I have no idea how it works. I don't know anything about it. It's all witchcraft and voodoo magic to me. But I'd like to thank the anonymous person who done that. It's quite a very generous gift. Thank you. God bless you. And you came at the right time, because I was on my knees the other day. Seriously, talking to God, and I said, listen, we've got all this building work here. What's going on? And we're falling quite far behind in the fundraising efforts. And hey presto, some money appears. But it was actually sent to us in October, but we don't check it that often. So God bless you, God bless you, God bless you, and thank you. We only discovered it today, and it's took an enormous weight off my mind. So, you see, God works in mysterious ways. It's quite marvellous. Right, before we get into this and talk to the wild woman of the north, let us have a wee bit of scripture, okay?
Just apologise, everyone, there was a wee glitch on YouTube.
Aye.
So it's all been fixed.
Oh, aye, we had a wee glitch on YouTube, but it's been fixed now, so we're all right. So, I'm reading again from the Proverbs. Oh, it's a wonderful bit of the Bible, this. Proverbs 29, verse 25. Let's see now. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be safe. Isn't that the truth? And this is why we insist that people use their real names on our platforms. Because remember what it says here, the fear of the man bringeth a snare. If you're terrified of being doxxed, you're in a snare. What's a snare? It's a trap that keeps you captive. You don't want to be captive. If you're in the Lord, you fear nothing, apart from the Lord themselves. There's no reason to fear men. Who are men to be frightened? Who are they to be frightened of? And remember it says here, trust in the Lord shall be, those who trust in the Lord shall be safe. It's very important to remember that. So, thank you for all joining us. We're going to bring Jayda Fransen in. I think she's just about ready. So let us see if we can bring... Do we know how to do this, Techie Man? Yep. Okay, so we're going to bring Jayda Fransen in now. Let's see. Jayda Fransen, are you with us?
I am indeed. Hello.
Marvels of modern technology, yeah? It's incredible what we can do now. Because Jayda's away hiding somewhere, I think, because she's been stirring up the Scottish people. So, Jayda, I hear tell you've been causing front page news. I was meant to have one of the papers, but somebody burned it. I've seen it in the paper, the main Scottish newspaper. You had like a full page spread in it. What have you been doing?
Well, myself and a handful of activists went to a member of the Scottish Parliament's constituency office, and we simply held up a banner that says it's okay to be white, which I think is a very reasonable slogan. Yep. It also said all lives matter, which I also think is a very reasonable slogan, given that black lives, there we go, that's us, yep. Outside the office of Humza.
It's very racist looking, Jay. That's very scary, very intimidatory, obviously a death threat. Horrible. I think the paper called it, what did the paper call the banner? A vile banner.
Yeah. So, okay, just to clarify, I assume, Mr. Dalton, that you're being facetious because for reasons I need you to clarify that. So we went outside the office. This is the guy, if anybody hasn't seen the video, well, first and foremost, I'm going to plug my show after this, right? Because you very kindly agreed to come onto my show afterwards for the viewers that didn't make it onto this one. And I will show you a bit more about this individual. I have played his video on my show in the past. He is the chap who has a problem with white people holding positions of authority in a white European nation. He is of Pakistani heritage and thinks that there should be more Muslim and BAME individuals in positions of authority in the United Kingdom and in Scotland specifically. So after he had a rant in the Scottish Parliament about the fact that too many people are white in positions of authority, we exercised our democratic right to protest peacefully with a banner that has some very reasonable slogans, and the backlash that caused has been quite incredible. The police visited several home addresses. Activists were stopped and threatened with fines, threatened with being arrested, threatened to have their vehicles impounded if they didn't turn around and drive off. And then the member of Scottish Parliament, Humza Yousaf, has taken to Twitter...
Hold on a minute. What's his name?
Humza Yousaf.
Ah, from the West Highland clan. Yes. Who fought at the side of William Wallace against the English. Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Yeah.
Well, I thought, given that you're from Scotland and he's obviously Scottish, I thought that you'd probably know each other. I could see all the similarities there.
Second cousin of mine, yeah.
I thought that might be the case. Anyway, he's not a happy bunny, and he took to Twitter as these. This is the new thing, right? Politics lives on Twitter. So, apart from me, because I'm banned.
I'm banned as well. I just get banned recently. I have no idea why, because I don't even use the wretched thing.
Oh, well, there you go. That's why. Maybe you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But he took to Twitter and he has he's accused the far right, who are outside his constituency, of having made death threats to him over several months. And as much as I'm sitting here having a laugh and a joke about this is you will probably recall, Jim. This is the second time in 6 months that an elected official has publicly stated that I am either making death threats or that I'm putting people's lives in danger. And as a result of that, I am then receiving death threats. It happened in Northern Ireland in May. And I think you did a show and you very kindly, in my defence, attacked the people that were responsible, verbally, of course. But this is the second time in just a few months. And these are elected officials who can put it on record that falsely that I've made death threats to him. It's ludicrous, and all because I said it's okay to be white.
Pathetic, isn't it? But this seems to be stock and trade now with the libtards. Everything you say to them, if you say I don't agree with you, you're threatening me, you're making death threats. It's this constant mantra. And the only people I see who are actually really dangerous is them, because what they're trying to do with you is what the Nazis done with the Jews in the 1930s, is dehumanising you. So that you become so unhuman or so deserving of punishment that people then can do things to you and nobody will bat an eyelid. But Jayda, you know the Bible as well as I do. The Bible tells us the day will come when people will kill us all the day long and think they're doing God's work. That's what it's all about.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of it's common purpose. They're trained in this. These are Marxists. He's a member of the Scottish National Party. These are hardline communists. They have gone through all the common purpose training, and so like. You can have the most reasonable, quiet. I'm not known for being quiet, right? But there are times when I can lower my tone and speak very calmly, and you could speak in the most calm and reasonable manner, and these people will throw their hands up and say, "Oh, stop shouting at me, stop threatening me." It's common purpose. But the unfortunate thing is that our people, and when I say our people, I mean just general day-to-day average Joe, unfortunately have been subjected to the same indoctrination over many, many years. And so there's not many people, probably the exceptions would be our viewers, respectively yours and mine, and on the British Freedom Party, they're clued into what's going on. But the average person seeing that tweet would put the fact that my face is there and the statement he made, put them together and assume that I've been sending him death threats, and it is ludicrous in the extreme.
No, the general public are very easily led. I mean, my sister in Scotland wouldn't come over to Northern Ireland to attend my daughter's wedding because she'd seen that I was involved in politics and heard something and read something, but she construed that into I was a member of the IRA, and she wouldn't come over to the wedding. Notwithstanding that I'm the opposite side of the IRA, I'm a Protestant, not a Catholic, but there you go, that's my own sister. She went, "Oh no, he's in the IRA," because she'd seen something in the paper, the same paper that attacked you, and I was some kind of militant. So she went, "Oh, he must be IRA, man." So I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a Marxist, so the chances of me being in the IRA are very remote. But yeah, you're right, and that's why they do it. The common purpose people, I've had it in TV studios. Well, you're talking deliberately, very, very softly, and they'll say, "Oh, please, you're shouting at me, you're intimidating me, stop doing it," and you're going, "I'm whispering. What's wrong with you?" "Oh, now you're intimidating me," and that's the way they go on, because they cannot win the argument. Because at the end of the day, your good self and us and people like us, we are in the right, 100%. And a man said to me, "How can you declare that? That's very fundamental. It's very narrow-minded." Well, I'm a narrow-minded fundamentalist bigot. If that be the case, so be it. But we are right. They are wrong. There is no grey area. Yeah. That's it. And they don't like to hear that, and they won't argue it because they're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite shocking, really, to see. So he put this post up, and like you said, the newspaper used that very term. The newspaper said, "The vile banner that I was holding up, the vile banner I mean, the banner says it's okay to be white, and it says all lives matter. I mean, it could have been even more narrow, and it could have said white lives matter, because guess what they do?
Yeah.
I mean, we've plenty of people kneeling down and saying that black lives matter, but guess what? So do white, so do yellow, so do brown, so does every shade. Every life matters, and I'd like to see some of these Black Lives Matter actually take an interest in black babies that are being butchered. But anyway, we won't get onto the subject of abortion. But it's the hypocrisy of the whole thing, and they say that this is vile without sort of qualifying that statement, because they can't possibly. And then you've got MPs and MSPs across the board in the Scottish National Party and the SNP fawning over this guy. We're so sorry that this has happened to you. We're so sorry that you've had to live with this. The papers have said that. Have specifically said that I am trying to intimidate him, and this is all through just democratic process of holding a banner.
Well, the good news is I looked at their paper online. This is a paper called the Daily Record. It's a rag. I mean, even when I go to visit my family in Scotland, they have me on the front page saying the rat sneaks back. It's incredible. They really love me. The guy who writes all the stories with me is one of these rainbow warrior guys, crazy guy. And anyway, he's an ex-British soldier, and he was saying that I hate brown people, and I want to harm brown people. I says, hold on, mate, I wasn't the guy to put a uniform on, went over to Iraq and started shooting people in their own country. That was you, not me. So steady on. But anyway, I looked at their Facebook post regarding you and the vile banner, and there was almost 500 comments. Now, I took the time of counting about 100 of them, and 97 out of the 100 were positive, saying, well done, and what's wrong with this wretched communist paper, and the woman's done nothing wrong, and why doesn't white lives matter, and all this. So, if 97% of the comments, the normal people, were 100% Jayda in support of you, and I think that's indicative of how bizarre and how out of touch these newspaper editors are, and these people who live in the metropolitan areas. They have no idea. They think they're speaking for the people, but 97% of the people who read that paper disagreed with them. So it says it all.
Well, yeah, and that's very comforting, given that myself, the British Freedom Party are going to be standing candidates in the Scottish elections, and that's what really this is all about, right? The SNP are hardline communists. They peddle a Marxist agenda, and they have been unopposed for many, many, many years. I mean, they've had the run. They've been able to push this agenda on Scotland, and they really have done their best to destroy it. If you look at Sturgeon and her constituency in Govan Hill, it is in such a terrible state. And if that is what voting SNP leads to, then you'd think that everyone in their right mind would avoid it. But unfortunately,
Jayda, can I just tell you a wee story about Govan Hill? Because I know Govan Hill very well. Govan Hill's just above the Gorbals. In the old days, the Gorbals was a Jewish ghetto, and then the Irish poured in another way about. But anyway, there was more Roman Catholic Irish lived in the Gorbals area of Glasgow than lived in the entire 6 counties of Ulster at one time. Yeah, seriously.
Oh.
And even during the Troubles, the real Troubles, not the terrorist Marxist nonsense, I'm talking about the real Troubles in the 20s, De Valera, the only place De Valera could find in the world to hide in that was safe and he could be protected was in the Gorbals. And they had 17 battalions of IRA volunteers in Glasgow. 17 battalions. He was so heavily guarded, the authorities knew where he was, but they could not get in. They would need an army to get and get him. Yes, that's the truth. So that area was then took over by Southeast Asians, Pakistanis mainly. And the Irish had moved up the hill a bit to the more middle class areas as the second and third generations of Irish started to prosper. So that the place called Govan Hill is just above the Gorbals. It became a very decent, blue collar area. It was mixed. It was Irish Catholics and Irish Protestants. So there used to be things like orange parades up there. And then the Muslims started growing in numbers. So the Irish Republicans teamed up with the Muslims to oppose the Protestant parades, which was very successful. And they more or less banned the Protestants marching to Queen Victoria Park. And everybody was jubilant on that side of the fence. Now, the Muslims, because they're strong enough, they don't need the help of the Irish Catholics, have now put their foot down and banned them from marching in that part of the town, unless they grovel on their hands and knees and beg them for one march a year. So let that be a lesson to the people of Ireland. There is no time for the orange and green to fight anymore. I mean, look, I'm a Protestant, you're a Catholic, Jayda. You know, your family comes from the south of Ireland, my family comes from the north. There is no time anymore because people, whether it be the Brits, the English, the Muslims, somebody will always play us off against each other if there is room to play us off one another. So until Catholics love Protestants and until Protestants love Catholics, we will always be wide open to being manipulated. And I say, it's time that stopped. We are Christian people. And it's us against the world. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is the message that I've been pushing for a long time. And it's very difficult because, you know, there are some very clear divides. I remember going to Scotland many years ago, and obviously now I'm based in Northern Ireland, and I didn't grow up in any of the turmoil, so I'm not belittling any of it because the Troubles, I'm sure, were a truly horrific period, and I'm so fortunate that I was very safe on the mainland. I was born in '86. A lot of it passed me by, and we didn't even learn about it in school, to be fair. But I think, whilst I wouldn't belittle anyone's struggle, and of course I have loved ones on both sides, I would say now that we really have to acknowledge and accept the fact that we have a common enemy. And whilst we are distracted, you know, pushing hatred towards each other and focusing on each other, the real enemy are pulling stunts like that. And that is just such, I mean, it's terrible, but it's ideal to illustrate how liberalism and the embracing of multiculturalism and appeasement, how that actually leads to the demise of everyone. Not just these commies think they're being clever and they think, oh, we'll get rid of the right wing or we'll get rid of the patriots, or, you know, these other people that have come in from a foreign land and they're not our people, they will never, ever integrate. It's not going to happen. And so there's this old saying, isn't there? I remember when there were a lot of terrorist attacks going on, and the British government had this ridiculous slogan saying, after one of the really most heinous terrorist attacks, when they blew up our children at Manchester Arena, it was an Islamic terrorist. There was a slogan saying, "Hug a Muslim." And I thought, you know, I don't have hatred for any people. I don't have hatred in my heart. I'm a Christian. I don't like that ideology. I'm not saying that every single one of them's bad. But, you know, if you're going to create such a ridiculous environment where you're going to say, let's hug a Muslim just because they're a Muslim, even though, you know, that ideology has been responsible for a lot of terror throughout the world, it will be the left that are hugging these people that are the first ones to be attacked by them, whilst we're in the background waiting for it to happen.
And let's be fair to the Muslims. Let's give a shout out to the Muslims. So yes, we are bombing their countries. We invaded Iraq. For what reason? I don't know. It was supposed to be to do with the Twin Towers. Well, it may surprise some people that the Iraqis and Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with it. In fact, Saddam Hussein and the Iraqis were fighting the country where the hijackers of the planes came from, Saudi. And Saudi to this day is still Britain and America's big pal. I don't know why, but they are. And you know, we went to that country. Now, let's just be clear about this. We killed 1 million civilians. 1 million. Some of my friends are in the army, some of my family are in the army. They were, and I don't decry the army boys one bit. You join the forces, you do what you're told. It's not their problem. They do what they're told. It's the politicians. It's the politicians who decided to go and attack the only country in that region who was fighting with the people who actually spawned those people that took down the Twin Towers. We attacked the people. We attacked the only nation who was actually fighting that country, who spawned the actual bombers. It's ludicrous. And I think a lot of soldiers now who've been there, I speak to a lot of American soldiers, a lot of British soldiers, they know the score. They've been there, they've seen the reality. And, you know, we say it's what the Muslims are doing in Britain and what knows terrible thing. But we killed 1 million of their people. Do you honestly think they're going to take that in the chin and say, doesn't matter? We killed 1 million of their people. Their countries are still in ruins. Their countries are still in turmoil. We armed ISIS. We armed Al-Qaeda. We trained what do you call that? Osama bin Laden. The Americans and the Brits trained him originally and armed him. Yeah. So can we be surprised? You know, what does it say in the Bible? You sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. It's not us. It's not our people. It's not our soldiers. It's our corrupt, lousy politicians who have caused a lot of this.
Of course. And, you know, look, not only can you look at the cause and effect, you know, us going into their lands and killing their people, but aside from that, I've been an activist for many, many years, and one of the main topics that I have campaigned about is Islamic terrorism, and I've spoken very openly about that ideology, and I've spoken very openly about the scriptures and what have you, and I have very clear views on it. I'm a Christian, and that's that. But I will say this, right? I think we had this conversation. I had a conversation on someone's show recently. I forget if it was yours. If it was, forgive me, but I'm going to say it again, right? The crux of the matter is this. There is a blame game going on. There's blame culture in the United Kingdom, and whether it be the Jews or whether it be the Muslims, there's this whole culture on the right wing. And I say right wing in inverted commas because these are not our people. These are not conservative, traditional, what I would consider to be right wing, decent, traditional Christians and nationalists. There's a blame culture. Everything's the Jews' fault. Everything's the Muslims' fault. Oh, hold on a minute. So yes, okay, I accept that there's a grooming gang problem in the United Kingdom, and 98% of the perpetrators are Pakistani Muslim. And yes, the Pakistani Muslim men have groomed our children. But here's the point.
And convicted.
Yeah, but they've groomed our children. Right. So when are we going to take responsibility? When are we going to say, yes, there is a problem, but can we lay the blame? And I'm not saying these men should be hanged, right? Let's face it, if you groom a child, you should be hanged, whether you're black, white, or polka dot. But can we truly just keep blaming these other cultures? First of all, yes, the government are bringing them into the country, and they're the problem. But we're not reacting. We're not defending. We're not bringing our kids up right. And so when our kids are being groomed on a mass scale, I mean, a national pandemic across the world, it has attracted media attention because of the scale of it. Can we really, for how many more decades? It's been going on for at least 3 decades. How many more decades are we going to sit back and say, oh, but the Muslims are doing it? Well, how about we take responsibility for our own kids? Because, if we had a closer eye on what they were doing, and if they weren't in the circumstances that they're in, this wouldn't be happening. So I don't like this whole shrugging off your own responsibility culture that we've got in the UK. And that's what the British Freedom Party really is all about, is driving people towards the right way.
I think it's refreshing because I'm very annoyed that people also want to blame, a couple of generations ago it was blame the Jews, and then it was blame the blacks. Now it's blame the Muslims, and with various strands. I don't know who it'll be in 10 years' time, but we're blaming somebody. I think I told you once, I was at a big meeting once with right-wing people in Hammersmith, and they were all screaming about the Jews and the blacks and the Muslims and all the rest of it, and how their life was a mess, and they're all sitting there with tattoos on their forehead and everything. I don't have a job because the Muslims have stolen my job. They've got a tattoo, ACAB, across their forehead. And I said to them, I've got something in my bag. I've got a picture of the person who's responsible for all your misfortunes in my bag. And I went down into my bag and I pulled out this thing and I turned it around. It was a shaving mirror. And I went round the hall saying, there you go, there's the guy that's responsible for your misfortunes. I had to run out the hall. I was chased down Hammersmith High Street with an angry crowd of skinheads. But that's the problem. Take responsibility for yourself. And regarding these grooming girls, what in God's name is a 12 or 13-year-old girl out in the middle of the night wandering about? Where's the parents? Why would you allow your 14-year-old daughter to work in a kebab shop? This is the problem with this. This is the problem. A lot of this stems from bad parenting. Bad parents and people not taking responsibility for their own kids. I've got 2 daughters. There's no way any of them will be working in a kebab shop at 14-year-old.
No.
Not happening.
And I grew up in South East London, and I have to say that I personally have experience of encounters with these grooming gangs, because when we were kids, we were at school, and they were always if you went into any of the local shops, the kebab shops, they were always trying to groom kids. And me being me would be the kind of person that wouldn't be very susceptible to that. But, the reality is we have to start looking after our kids. And I'm so sick of there's this liberal ideology that's been pushed onto parents as well, where, you have to be accepting of whomever your child wants to mix with, because, in the name of equality and diversity and all this crap. No, if your kids are knocking about with drug dealers, if your kids are knocking about with gang members, if your kids are knocking about with middle-aged men that work in kebab shops and ploughing them with vodka at midnight on a Wednesday, something's wrong. Intervene. We all have to take responsibility, and I don't want to upset anyone who's watching whose child has been subjected to grooming, because I've worked with victims and families for many years, and it's such a horrific thing that they've gone through. But as a society, we owe it to our children to, at the very least, make sure they understand the danger that they're in. They're in that danger through the fault of our government by allowing all of these people whose ideology is not compatible with ours into our land. And as you say, the result of us going into their lands has made them very hostile, and they're here. So they're here and they're hostile, and they're taking it out on our kids. Yeah. But they'll only take it out on our kids if we put our kids in their presence.
Well, you will notice, Jayda, there's no grooming gangs in Belfast.
I've noticed
no grooming gangs in Belfast. Because you know what would happen if our girls were being groomed and raped in Belfast. There'd be serious, life-changing consequences for those responsible. And I think that, that's the reality of it. So, no, I want to tell people here, Jayda, that, British people watching this, especially British men, get up off your backsides and go and do something. Join this women's party, the British Freedom Party. It's the only show in town. Don't be listening to these daft online. No, I'm talking to men here, so you won't be online being beguiled by some idiot with a very squeaky voice and we're not sure if puberty's kicked in yet. You won't be like that. I mean, all the people, I don't know if you agree, Jayda, but everybody I see who's on these online things, they're all little dweebs. Lads, be a man. Get off your backside. Get away from your keyboard. Hit the streets with Jayda and her posse. We don't mind that. Get out there with real people, real human beings. Go out, do a demo, go to the pub, have a pint, have a pie, communicate, become comrades, get bashed up now and again with their heads, get flung in the back of a police station, do normal stuff that political activists do. All of the people who are now in Parliament, and even people like Lord Hayne and all that, they were in the middle of it back in the day. Back in the day, I was listening to Lord Hayne the other day, how he was invading the pitch and getting beat up and fighting in the street with the right-wingers. All of that stuff is totally normal and acceptable and respectable if you want a career in politics or you want to be a real patriot. You cannot, and you are not, a patriot sitting behind your wee keyboard. In fact, Jayda, I heard a funny thing the other day. A guy said to me, "You know nothing about me, Mr. Dowson. I'm hardcore. I have sacrificed for this country. I've been a groiper for 2.5 years." A groiper. So he's on pestering people on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, and he genuinely thinks he is a hardened veteran of activity on the right. Lads, please, it's ridiculous that we have to have a woman leading the movement in Britain, but that's it. We used to with Queen Elizabeth, with Maggie Thatcher, with Joan of Arc and other countries. Sometimes that's what happens. And God does that because he can't find any man worthy. So I think God wants to give us a kick up the backside. He says, "I'll tell you what I'll do, lads. Yous are useless. I'm going to raise a woman up." And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. And he's raised a fine, fierce, fearless woman. And that's it. Your duty now, if you're an Englishman, a Scotsman, a Welshman, and an Ulsterman, your duty now is to follow the person that God has raised. And my opinion is God has raised Jayda Fransen to lead the British Patriot movement. She's not a Zionist. She's not a snowflake. She's a hardcore Christian right-wing person. Everybody's frightened to say right-wing. Are you frightened to say you're right-wing, Jayda?
Oh, no. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Jim, one of the very early documentaries that the BBC ran on me, this was years and years ago, one of the first ones, I think it was like 2014, and this was great. The guy said, "Oh, you're right wing, far right," and then he said, "You're always talking about, Islamic extremists. Well, you're a Christian extremist." I said, "Listen, sunshine, I will wear that hat every day of the week." And exactly, I'm an extremist in every sense of the word, but in terms of being a Christian, I'm the most fanatical Christian that you're going to find. So no problem with that.
Absolutely. Somebody called me the other week. You said you're a fundamentalist. I said, "I'm not." Because those people are nearly always never any fun and nearly always mental. But I am an absolute fanatical to the death Christian. I have no problems. I have no problem being right wing. So Jayda, a couple of people always ask, just yes or no's really suffice. We don't need to elaborate because why would we? But are you a Zionist?
No.
Right? Hold on. No.
No.
People ask these things because they cannot believe. Again, it's deflection. I'm not in the party because she's a Zionist. No, she's not. Why are you still not in it? Are you civic nationalist or ethno-nationalist?
Ethno-nationalist.
There you go, lads. You're running out of excuses, boys. Cause what happens?
Civic nationalism doesn't exist. It's not a thing. It's a contradiction in fact.
It's an oxymoron. But a lot of a lot of people who are in these pretend silly online parties, tell their followers, don't join her. She's a Zionist. Oh no, she's a civic nationalist. You've heard it. She's not a Zionist. She is an ethno-nationalist. So all the nonsense you've heard from your pencil neck gaffers is rubbish. You have no excuse now other than your own cowardice and the fact that you've not reached proper maturity. Certain things have to drop. When they drop, I'm sure Miss Fransen and her party will welcome you open arms. But until then, read, study, and do things that means when you do become a man and you do join the real right-wing party, you will be useful to Miss Fransen and all the other boys, girls, men and women in Britain who rely on you, young man. Listen, Britain, every country relies on its young men to rescue them in times. We need you. I know I've slagged you off there and been rough to you. I know that. But we need you. You are the future. Not me, not my generation. You are the future. And if you don't man up, and pretty damn quick, there will be no future. What do you think, Jayda?
Couldn't have put it better myself. Very eloquently put, and it's true. I've said this before. I often talk about men, you know, and sometimes I have to qualify that and say, look, this is not me on a man hate. I love men, right? There is absolutely no way that I would ever just be derogatory and harsh on men if it wasn't for a very good reason. Because I love men and because I love my nation and my people, I want them to embrace their masculinity. I want them to take on the role that they should be in and defend their people and their nation. Because I'm telling you now, there is nothing more fulfilling in life. As much as you might love football, you might love beer. Guess what? I love football and beer, right? But I'm telling you now, defending one's nation, there is no greater cause in life.
So what you're saying, I should stop shaving my legs. Well, you know, I never knew about this. Do you know men nowadays shave their legs and shave that? They're turning into women and they use those wax strips, which are fiendish instruments of torture. But they're using these wax strips and then they're doing everything. Men pluck their eyebrows. They pluck their eyebrows. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm being serious. They shave their legs, pluck their eyebrows, shave their chests. They do all this weird stuff, preening themselves, grooming themselves. You know, Jayda, I remember a guy stayed with me because his mum and dad moved and never told him. He was at his work and he come back in the house was the new family. They must have not, they didn't like him. He was a bit awkward. But anyway, my mother said, we'll put him up. And he was the first guy I ever seen with a hairdryer. And my mother said to me, Jim, can I have a wee word do? That mate of yours has to go. I says, how's that? I think he's a bit queer. I says, why? He's blow drying his hair. And I thought, oh, he maybe is. And it was shocking because he was blow drying his hair. Now we're into a situation now where men are plucking their eyebrows and doing all sorts of weird things. So, no, we are becoming feminised. And my message is, look, lads, get in. And sometimes when men are around women, they actually they man up because they're trying to impress the ladies. That's good. So you've got a double whammy. So not only do you get the benefit of being in the real, genuine, only real and genuine British nationalist party, but you also get to serve under a female boss, which might bring out the man in you. So why are you waiting? Get joined up. BritishFreedomParty.com on the website. You've got the YouTube and you've also got the Purged.tv British Freedom Party. So get on there. Right, Miss Fransen, we've spent enough time because I'm coming on your show in 15 minutes. I better let you go and get prepared and do whatever you do. But listen, I want to thank you on behalf of the Templars for coming on. I send that warm thanks from all our members across the world, and we are all across the world. They all love you to bits, and we think that you're doing a great job. And God bless you. May God keep his hand upon you. And I'll see you in about 15 minutes, Jayda. How's that?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
God bless you. See you again. Bye-bye.
God bless.
Okay,
Bye.
folks, that's all we've got for today. We've run a wee bit over time, but I think it's brilliant to bring Jayda in. She's very interesting, isn't she? And such an inspiration to people out there. And lets us know that God needs everybody playing their part. And sometimes, think of Joan of Arc, think of Queen Elizabeth I and people like that. Sometimes God raises up women, and I think he does it to show us up. To say, guys, get your act together. So, you know, I would serve under a woman like that any day of the week, no problem at all. So God bless each and every one of you. We're going to be back tomorrow again. I think Mr. Griffin is actually on tomorrow, so don't miss that. Put it in your diary. Mr. Griffin's on. And we'll see what interesting thing he has got. I was going to read you a bit of the book today. Don't have time. Remember, we've got one or two of these wee Bibles left. Please have a wee look for them, the Apocrypha Bible. And that's really it. So until I see you tomorrow, if the good Lord spares me, remember, stick close to God. You won't go far wrong. Do as well.